Hi, I'm Marcos Lobo, and this is the Optimist Engineer. Today, the journey to the Chief Technical Officer. Hello, everybody. It's my pleasure to have today Andres Torres, which is a very good friend of mine. We are having a lot of collaborations in the past for this episode of the Optimist Engineer. Today, Andres Torres, as I mentioned before, is Chief Technical Officer at Kalyp Technologies. And I'm pretty sure we'll have a very interesting conversation that all of you people could get profit of it. Andres, thank you very much for coming to the Optimist Engineer.
Hello, Marcos. Nice to be here. Nice to have a nice chat. So yeah, from my side, as you said, Andres Torres. I work at Kalyp Technologies as CTO for now a year and some days because I started around April, so a year and a month. And previously, I was working in a startup that became way bigger than a startup at some point in Netherlands. It was called Backbase. It was a fintech company that grew from 200 people to more than almost 2,000 at some point. I think they reduced some numbers now, etc. They moved from one office in Amsterdam only to offices all around the world. And I was part of all that growth. I'm not even from Asturias, like yourself, and I first moved to Madrid, and then I did that journey to Netherlands to start there. I was also working in London for a period, and then moved back to Asturias, where I'm now based again. I'm working remotely. This company is full remote, Kalyp. We have people, mainly they started in UK when they were still using the offices, and then the people disbanded a little bit with the COVID, and we have here in Asturias. We also have still in UK, Germany, Austria, US. So we are a little bit all around. We're a small team, but we have people in different locations.
Thank you very much, Andres. I was looking forward to have this conversation with you because, as you described, your journey is quite interesting. You started, you are from Asturias, a small region of Spain, in the north of Spain, and at some point you move out, you grow a lot to have new experiences in technical roles, and then you come back, and now you are a chief technical officer. Of course, we will see during the conversation that there are some different, let's say, flavors of a CTO, but it's true that it's an important role and it's an important journey of yours. So maybe we can start with the first question. And for me, the most immediate one is, what is the role of Chief Technical Officer, Andres?
Yeah, as you said, I'm going to talk about my experience in a company that is a full startup. We are still not in production operating live yet. So we are building for our customers, but still not live. A small team. We don't have that many leadership positions. So we have the CEO, we have operations, but that's it. And then myself. So it's a small leadership team and a small engineering team. At the end, the role is to drive. I'm going to say a quick definition and then we're going to go into details because I think it depends also on the status of the company or the stage of the company. So we are still pre-seed at the level that we are still moving on with investment money. So we have investors, private investors, equity that enter the company. We're going to move hopefully soon to live and then get the Series A, and then we're going to grow beyond that. So the company hopefully is going to grow to those phases and then it's going to change. The role is the direction, the technical direction of the company. So the technical strategy, what do we have today, but also a little bit more beyond 6 months, a year, 2 years. So what do we want to do from the technical point of view? Of course, taking into account that we want to build something for our customers, have features enough for them, fix things. Because we are not live yet, we are working with them, but we are not live. So we are not with guesses, but we are building things for them that we think they may like. We also have conversations for things they like. At some point, maybe we are also based on blockchain, so behind the scenes, so not purely is the distributed ledger. So we are using that. We use a private blockchain, not a public one. So that was, for example, my first question when I joined. Why blockchain? And then we went through the discussions because I wanted to know, because maybe it was a marketing decision. In this world, sometimes not all the decisions are purely technical. The hype of microservices, the hype of blockchain, machine learning. Now we are with the AI. So all these things sometimes are more marketing, or you use the buzzwords to get money, or to try to sell an idea more than fixing a problem itself. You could do the same with a distributed database, for example. So we went through that, and then why blockchain? Why this particular blockchain that we use, which is an open source solution, private blockchain? Why this, what that? So I was challenging the whole thing just to get an idea of where we are, because I inherited a product that was already built, an MVP. The role for me is that it's like, okay, we have this. Is this going to work long term beyond the MVP? Is this going to work when we go in production? That was what the CEO was asking me. Like, are we going to scale properly from multiple sides, not only like performing, but security wise, hiring? Can we grow the engineering team with the technologies we use? Or it's going to be impossible. It's cool to say that you use Scala or whatever is out there, but and you're going to find Scala senior engineers, or do you need to go back to Spring Boot, for example? So we have a Spring Boot. I didn't need to change that, but sometimes the decisions are also looking at that and how to grow the market. We are hiring globally, et cetera, et cetera. So setting the strategy from the technical point of view in a company like it's Kalyp these days with a small team, it's about wearing multiple hats, because I'm almost also a technical lead during the day-to-day, because I work with we have a small team of engineers, so I wanted to hands-on things and touching the code, not as much as where you are a pure an engineer, because the day-to-day also needs to talk to the CEO, talk to investors. There are other things that you need to do from the outside wall more than the day-to-day, and you don't want to block the team, so you try to touch things that are not a blocker for them, to help POCs, showing them ways of working, introducing new technologies, new tools that they were not aware or they were not using in the past, based on my experience. So doing all that probably if you're in a bigger company, you don't even have time to do that. You will be most likely the whole day in the leadership role with the C-level, talking to the externals, companies or the company's partners, customers, many other things. Based on my experience in the previous company where we grew to that level, my direct manager was a CTO, and I knew his day-to-day was, well, apart from multiple meetings, of course, it was mostly outside doors. So my role back then was director of technology, director of engineering, and it was mainly, he was setting the direction, and then we were the ones in charge of executing. So we were more in the day-to-day, in the behind doors, and he was more to the outside wall and working with the CEO in long-term strategy. So in my point of view, is there. Of course, there are different moments. Now we are still building the product, so I'm more involved in that. I need to talk to investors in the future. The investors part maybe is not that. You will not talk more with customers more than because you get the money from your normal revenue. Maybe you will not be that much in the day-to-day because you will have a large number of engineering team doing things for you, and you will have these roles that we are talking about, the director of engineering managers that will take care of that for you when you get to that size. But we don't have that luxury, so I need to wear multiple hats during the day and be more hands-on. So I was saying always this joke, like I'm the CTO of a small company, is like saying that I'm the vice president of my house. I have my girlfriend and 2 kids, and I'm number 4 in the list, as you can imagine.
Okay.
So it's the same thing.
Good. You mentioned actually a set of responsibilities that you are having today. Just for setting a little bit the context for this role of CTO, I don't know if you can tell more or less what is the size of your company, because you are mentioning that depending on the size of the company, different responsibilities can appear. So
Yeah,
more or
we are
less.
now in less than 10 people. We also reduced the
Okay.
team recently, a couple of numbers, but well, the idea when I joined we were around 10, and now we are about 8 total. But the engineering team is 5 people, including me, so 4
Mm.
plus me. So it's really,
I think
really, really
that's
small. Yeah.
mm, I think that's important, because sometimes we see, okay, CTO, and we hear that the CTO is dealing all the time with customers only meetings or whatever. But it depends of the size of the company, I believe, and also the maturity of the company. But mainly about the size, because when you grow, you need to scale, and with that, the different roles appears, intermediate. So
Yeah.
for
So
you,
for what I saw in the sorry that interrupted. So for what I saw in my experience in super small and kind of big company like was the other one with 2,000 people, in the super small you're still like a technical person, a technical lead building the product still with in some cases probably it's a solo person that they call themselves CTO, but that's the only person, or with the two or three. It's true that I joined an existing team. So at the beginning, I was less hands-on. I was trying to get my head around what's going on here, what do they use, what is the, as you know, it's not only technology, it's also people that you need to manage. So I wanted to know what was the day-to-day going on, who was leading there, what was the problem, what were the problems. In a big one like was Backbase, I will say that the most of the day is around that customers, strategy for long-term partnerships with big vendors. And on Backbase, we had partnership with Microsoft, with AWS. So you need to talk to those guys. And I will say that the one in the middle is hopefully when I'm gonna get, and that was my idea when I joined Kalyp. That was the growth is coming. Like you're gonna get something like Series A, you're gonna get an investment and an investment round that is gonna give you some freedom to start growing the team. So that will be the phase that, or that was the phase that I wanted to join in a company, like, because I went through that in Backbase, but not from the CTO or leadership position. I was mainly well, a leadership at some point. I was a chapter lead, solution architect. So I had some team members that I was the manager, but I was not deciding the company way. And we went through many things. Some things I agree with, some things I will do differently. So I wanted to use that experience in a smaller place, but taking as a friend from Backbase was saying, like, now it's time for you to make your own mistakes. Like I was eating some other people's mistakes, but also good things that we did in Backbase, and I wanted to apply that somewhere else, following my own ideas to see if I can do it, or even if I like it. But because maybe you don't want to be in that position in that small company. So now the ideas will be the growth. So you will be involved into the hiring, into the growing the team also a lot, into the talking to investors, which I do now, but you will do more, and talking to maybe other companies to introduce managed service and other things that we don't want to build ourselves because we are small. So talking to AWS, but also with the smaller vendors, introducing the whole security path, introducing the performance, et cetera, et cetera. So that was the part that I wanted to be, which is delaying a little bit for the moment we are, but it's the one I was aiming to. So this middle-sized company in a hyper growth moment.
That's great, and that's the sentence that you said is really interesting. You will start to do your to have your own mistakes. That's a good one, actually. So you mentioned some responsibilities, and you are mentioning that as right now you are more in the technical stuff, but your company is in a growth moment, or will come with some growth soon. So at some point, your role will evolve. I can imagine, Andres. So now you are even coding, maybe not too much as a software engineer, but you are still coding, doing maybe POCs, proposing tools, as you mentioned before. So what is the change that will come in a role like you from a company like you are right now
Yeah.
to the company that you are foreseeing, that you are looking for?
Well, I experienced a similar change from pure technical day to day to something else in Backbase when we grew. When we have that growth, some of us were going to leadership positions. So I adopted the role of director of engineering. There were 120 backend engineers because I was leading the backend guild. So when I moved there, it was 60, then we moved to 120. So your day to day, it is impossible to be technical anymore. Even if you want to, it will be unfair because you will be in one part of the company, and I don't know, we had the company divided into microservices. So we have different sections, payments, accounts, blah, blah. So you will only be able to work in one. Of course, you cannot be in two or three at the same time. Even if you want to follow the dailies, only that will consume your day. So you stay in one, you contribute there if you want to keep coding because you want to be, but you will be limited to that. You will be focused on that, and then you will lose the helicopter view that you need to help multiple people. Also, you will not be effective. Nobody's paying you the salary that you get paid, or nobody's aiming for you to be yet another really good engineer or leadership engineer. We had that roles. We have those leadership engineer roles. But what you want at that time is somebody that is making decisions that will benefit multiple teams, not even multiple people, but multiple teams. So you will I don't know, we were adopting new ways of working. We adopted across the board, I don't know, tools like test containers or managing when we're going to adopt the new version of Java, things like that. And also things for the developers directly, like a change or a way of working that you introduce will benefit multiple teams, so hundreds. Instead of you coding something really good, would benefit you and your particular team. So that's the main change. And then the other change is that you deal with people more than with code. That sometimes is frustrating because with the code, you can get frustrated, you can get angry, you can shout at it, you can shout at your computer, at your keyboard, but with people, you cannot do that. And sometimes, multiple times, the main problem is not even in the technical part, because there are many ways of doing things. Um, if not, will be super easy. Like it's always Java is always the solution, or TypeScript or whatever. There's not. There are many ways of doing things. You can do it with TypeScript, with Java, or with I don't know containers, not containers, cloud, not cloud. There is always a shades of gray, and when you involve people, people has their own opinions, their own experiences, etc. And you need to get a lot of people together to agree on something, because sometimes you just need to decide. You don't want to get blocked by. You can do it in Monolith, you can do it in microservices, but we need to decide. We cannot be arguing in a Confluence page for millions of days. And that happened not only with big decisions like microservices or not, but we have, and what cloud to be using. We were in AWS, Microsoft, even with minor details like the typical curly, brackets versus things, space tabs versus spaces, or the amount of coverage that we want to have. Sometimes the discussions were there, and you need to involve people so they don't disconnect, because you never take into account their opinions, but you also need to get them to move forward, and sometimes settle with something that is not their favorite tool, because everybody wants to use Gradle or Kotlin or whatever, but now they need to do Maven, because for the greater good of the company, getting everybody involved is the best tool for the moment. And also adapt, because we adopted things super quick, like back in the day, Kubernetes, because the customers were asking for it. And we're working with banks that normally these guys are still in call. So why these guys wanted to go so fast? We were having projects going live in Kubernetes while the company was still testing in EC2 machines with Tomcats. So there was a moment that we needed to shift to the new paradigm, and then you need to train people, you need to involve everybody, so you don't leave people behind. So I think that was the major change. Like your main focus is more about getting the others to perform better, to help others, more than you get better yourself. Nobody cares if you can do. Well, nobody cares. It's not your thing anymore to be doing things better for yourself technically. It's way more productive for the company that you get 30 or 40 people to do the things a little bit faster, a little bit better. It's basically the day-to-day change and the mentality change and the frustration sometimes, because it's easier to just get your headphones and start coding. That's normally your peace moment, or it was for me, like losing some hours doing things there, investigating and solving the problems there. You get the instant reward of seeing the code working or the feature in production, and you see that with your team, and then you celebrate next sprint. With in those roles, you are doing changes that take 6 months, a year to get feedback and see that the teams are performing better, and you need to measure that. It's always tricky. So you don't get that reward. You need to get used to that, and feeling that sometimes like I'm doing nothing, or I'm only in meetings and I'm not making any progress. And it's a tricky part of the role.
I think that part is really interesting, because you were talking about frustrations, the frustrations of the role, and that's quite interesting, because when we hear about CT, different roles, basically or mainly we hear about the good things and the beautiful things, right? But as everything else, there is always a phase B, right? The other phase. And this kind of frustrations, I believe, is important to make it appear for the people that are considering to move to a role like CTO or more management roles like yours, to consider this kind of frustrations. I was wondering, when you were talking, Andres, what is that situation or that task or that responsibility that you were not expecting? Like, okay, now I'm CTO, and suddenly, boom, okay, that was not expected to me.
Well, in this case, I think it's because it's the face of the company was the talking to investors. So I needed to talk to investors almost since day one of course, because I was still getting my knowledge around the whole thing and to defend the proposition that we had. But not really after a while. I was talking to a person ready to put some money in the company, and they wanted to meet me because the announcement was done in LinkedIn publicly, like I was the new CTO, etc. And they wanted to meet me. And it's a different kind of conversation, because if it's a technical person, you talk the technical details that you know. If it's somebody that is not that technical, you need to maybe focus on the things you want to improve. I don't know. But it's a conversation also about a person that is about to put some money from their own pocket, because in some cases they were like private funds. So, well, these guys, the day-to-day is invest in companies like that, and they know the risk. But on the other is the same, but it's a private investor. And it's a person that's going to put whatever amount of money, and you're going to be one of the reasons they're going to go for it or not. And it's, of course, I want it because we want to operate, we want the company to move forward, but also you're feeling like, okay, if these things go south, which can happen in a startup, maybe you don't make it, this person is going to lose their money. And that was not something I had in mind at the beginning. I was expecting the whole thing talk to customers. I was used to that in Backbase. We're talking to customers. I was in professional service, so my day-to-day at the beginning was only customers, and I've been doing that my whole career, so I'm used to. But that switch to this person is going to put money in here and I need to convince them kind of thing to do it, that was new, and that was not something I expected. And the other things at the end, as I said, is you're the kind of the technical lead, so I was going through that. You need to deal with different personalities, and you need to deal still with something that was built before you. So you need to understand why. There's always a reason for something. Nobody makes decisions that are wrong based on that. Maybe back in the day that decision was great, but nowadays if you go through it again, you see that actually we introduce things like the decision records, engineering decision records, and other things to not only for the new things we were deciding and start doing. Also, we were going like historically, like, okay, why blockchain, and we added that one, and why this blockchain, and why this framework, why we use Spring Boot, why we use Vaadin, for example, for the front end, why that? And sometimes the answer was as simple as we only knew Java, so Vaadin was a Java front end framework. So nowadays you can revisit that decision and say, okay, are we in a better position? Can we hire people that knows other languages? Is Vaadin still an option for us? So those things were the deal with something that was built by somebody else and some decisions by somebody else, but well, I was more used to. But the thing that was totally new was the investment, getting money in, because we are still not operating on our own revenue. So that's the first time for me. I was always in companies that were doing worse or better, but getting some money in from being live and customers paying for it, not in private investors.
That's something really interesting to say. Yes, investors. That's maybe it is an opportunity for a special episode about how to deal with investors. Some
I think
tips and tricks.
we're gonna go through another phase now, hopefully soon, for the Series A. That will require a lot of conversations. The CEO already
Great.
told me, and knowing from other person that went through the same process in their companies, that one requires you need to do a lot of pitch, and there's of course the technical piece that you need to, and they're gonna ask you always like, how are you planning to grow? If this thing hits 1 million, there's just blah blah. So you need to go through scaling and hiring, and you need to explain that in a convinced way that they believe that you are the person to make it happen. So that will be an interesting one. And definitely, if you have somebody that goes through that Series A and you get an interview, I would love to hear about that. I know some of them, and I personally talked to some people in conferences, etc., and they explained me a little bit, and looks like a nice challenge.
Indeed. So you were working before Kalyp Technologies in a company that was bigger than this.
Yeah.
You were engineering director, and now you moved to a small one, but a CTO. So it's not, let's say, it's not the typical movement, because usually when you go to, let's say, more impacting roles, you go to a bigger company. But maybe it's not the case all the time. Actually, I'm thinking as I speak, and maybe it's not the case. Whatever, this is your journey. A big company as engineering director, smaller company as a CTO. What are the difference? What are the difference when you move from that role in that size of the company to this role in this size of the company?
Yeah, I was lucky that we I joined Backbase when the hypergrowth was happening. So we moved from 200 to 400, 400 to 800, and then we reached almost 2,000 in numbers. So you're surfing that wave, and I was lucky at the level where I was performing well, and then also my colleagues and others we showed some leadership skills, and I actually went for what or in my thoughts, for the company needed. They didn't need me to write Spring Boot REST APIs faster. They needed somebody that, especially when we were hiring 30, 40 people every month, we didn't have trainings. We were putting the people in place directly, and it was a problem because people were not performing well. Customers were complaining like, hey, they cannot do what they supposed to be doing. They are supposed to be seniors. They were seniors in Java and Spring, but they were not seniors in our product. And our product started to be way bigger than it was. It used to be one product line, and then we were 6 or 7 when I left. So having the knowledge of all of them was really difficult unless you've been through some projects like some of us we did. So that was the first. Like maybe people move to other companies to grow because maybe it's faster to join in a higher role in a different company than in yours, because sometimes it's easier to get that or a salary increase when you move. In our case, in our profession, sometimes it's easier to move somewhere else to get more money than internally, which is weird and sometimes it's stupid, but sometimes happens. I was lucky enough to grow. Also, the company was different. So Backbase 200 people was not the same as Backbase 2,000 people. So it's actually like moving to a bigger company, but I was inside of the company already and I grew with them. And many people left the company when we reached those numbers, even before, because they wanted to work in a startup kind of thing. We were doing things less politically. So even from some things that were annoying, like the expenses and other things, like I was spending my own personal money and then you get reimbursed after a month. Getting to conferences, it was like super easy, and then everything was approved. At some point, you needed to go through a process when your manager needs to approve, and the manager of the manager and needs to go to finance. So buying a book, it was a ridiculous 3 emails, 2 forms thing at the end when I left. And before that, you were buying tickets to a Spring conference in US for $1,000 the same day with the secretary there, because she was the one booking the flight. So the company grew, you adopt many things, and some people left because they didn't like that anymore. Some of us stayed because we grew with the company and we were doing different things. So I was not senior backend engineer or chapter lead like I was at the beginning. I was director of engineers. So I was also doing I was many new roles inside of my 8-year journey in Backbase. I think it will be difficult, and I'm not saying because, well, our CTO was a person that we hired in a different role and he grew into CTO, but well, he started in a director position already. I could stay there and grow to CTO, but the company size, there were many directors, so it was more difficult. Also, I moved from different things, not only the career thing, they want me to move back to Netherlands and I wanted to stay remote. And I was contracting. So there were other things, but company growth, ways of doing things, trying to change things from my position, even though I was in a leadership position, was trickier. We had one CTO, but one chief product, but then each one of the product lines, they have their own chief product, and then you also have what they call domain architect. So you're like a mini CTO and a mini product that you need to convince to do stuff, because my role was horizontal, for saying, like, if I want to introduce Java 17, or if I want to get rid of microservices and do something else, I needed to convince all these product people and all these technical leads in each one of these products to do that at the same time. We cannot have half of the company in Java 17 and half in Java 11. So it was super political at the level that you need to convince a lot of people to make things, which give you a lot of experience into doing that, which I'm using now in a smaller team. But I wanted, as we said before, I wanted to make my own mistakes, take the learnings of that hyper growth somewhere else and try to use it in a company about to grow or about to have a similar or even if it's a smaller scale growth, but help them from the beginning. And with my ideas, thinking like in Backbase, if we did that we will have a less painful journey that we had. Maybe it's not going to be the same. I'm going to make mistakes for sure, etc. But I wanted to try, and maybe next time it's not my thing, and I decide I prefer to be in bigger companies. Well, that was the idea, and the responsibilities for now, because I said now I'm doing a lot of tech lead, etc. I think if you compare the size, CTO size, and you're having a VP, etc., in that same size, I think the CTO is more, again, long term. like designing the strategy outside. I need to explain that strategy to partners, etc., other vendors, clients. And the VPs, the directors, and these roles, you are more in the day-to-day executing that strategy that was set by the CTO together with the CEO. Like, we are going here, we are adopting the cloud, we are adopting this particular cloud, etc. Or not even. Maybe you said you are adopting the cloud, and then the day-to-day, the VP of engineering, director of engineering, they're gonna evaluate multiple clouds and come to you with a proposal, like which one, based on money, based on features, based on whatever. So they are more in the day-to-day. They are closer to the engineers, and you need those roles because your company grew a lot, and you have hundreds of thousands of engineers, and the CTO cannot be on top of that. So you have VPs, directors, engineering managers, and all these roles to be able to know what's going on in the day-to-day. And I think the main difference is that, like, they execute a strategy that was set by the CTO level, and then they are more in the day-to-day execution.
That's great. Great experiences that you are sharing, Andres, and thank you very much. I'm pretty sure the audience will really appreciate that. We are reaching the last section of the episode. So let's imagine. I'm pretty sure many people could that is listening to the episode could think, maybe now I'm listening to Andres. Now I'm interested in this role. What would be the advices, the tips, the tricks, or whatever that you want to share with the audience that are willing to go into this chief technical officer?
Well, in my experience, and I think I mentioned that before, it was more the title, because I think if you pursue titles, it's going to get frustrating because also the titles change. I mean, when I was in Backbase with the whole growth, etc., I moved from, we changed the career path like 3 or 4 times, and the role changed, but I was almost doing the same for a period of time. Like, I was chapter lead, a solution architect, technical architect. Those roles were more or less the same, the day-to-day. So you was changing the titles because you need to change the naming, but the responsibilities and etc. were the same. And again, I was telling the engineers in Backbase also, when no, I want to be lead principal engineer in 3 years. Like, focus more in learning. Some of the responsibilities will come because you are learning enough to teach others, or getting more responsibility, or designing your own service, or designing your system, whatever. And also focus on solving problems for the company, which in this case will be solving problems for your customers. Or if the company is big enough, sometimes you have enough internal problems that you can solve internal with the company, with tooling for your own teammates, or the day-to-day. Because that's where the money comes from, and that's what's gonna get you visibility, etc. More than I want to be CTO. Like, I didn't know that the chapter lead existed, or director of engineering mode. Director of engineering was more, but chapter lead was something that Spotify created, and then they never used it fully, but many companies copy the whole thing. And then you look at the responsibilities that I was doing more or less what you see in the responsibility. I was like, okay, we need to introduce trainings. We need to teach the new joiners. We need to introduce career paths. We need to do meetups internally so that people learn continuously. I was doing all that stuff and leading all that stuff because I wanted, and because I was seeing teammates suffering, and I also wanted to learn from others. So you introduce all those things for yourself and for the team. And then when you look at what these roles are doing, you see that you are doing already that, more than the other way around. Like, what is this role doing? Let me try to apply all that. Try to find what is itchy in the company and try to scratch that. Try to solve problems internally or for your customers, and focus on that. Because maybe in the future, maybe at some point your company needs that you create a better interview system, because you need to grow a lot and you need to interview more people and do it better and hire better people. But when you stop hiring, you still work there and you want to do something else. Maybe you want to go back to day-to-day coding, or maybe you going to focus on designing the systems more, or you're going to be an internal trainer, or you're going to be a whatever. I will focus more on that, what the company needs, what problems you can solve with the customers, more than the titles itself. And for me, I wanted to just do things my way. And this company, the title could be whatever. Actually, at the beginning, I was not even CTO. I think it was head of engineering, something like that, when I did the first interviews or the first talk, because it was never like a full interview process. I went in through a colleague that was working there already, so it was head of engineering. Sometimes the titles are more to the outside doors than what you do internally. So that will be my advice. And then keep in mind that it's not only technology, we said before. It's a lot of is human interaction, communication. You need to be transparent. I think it's a good advice there. Like, tell them what's going on. If you don't know what's going on, like, I don't know, guys, if we should adopt this technology because I have doubts here and there. then do POCs and not. Be transparent with the team. Nobody expect that you know everything. Technology changes every day. A few years ago, AI didn't exist, and now you can build a whole problem with ChatGPT if you want. There are many things that keep it up to date for yourself, but also be transparent with the team and with the people you work with. I think it can be the best advice.
Great advices, Andres. I'm pretty sure the audience will appreciate once more. Actually, if for the people that is now listening to the episode, do not hesitate to write your comments in the newsletter. We will read it. We'll provide the feedback as well if there is any to Andres. Looking forward to hear your comments, people. So Andres, we are ending the session, but before leaving, if people wants to contact you to know more about this or whatever, I don't know if how the people can reach you out in internet.
I think the best way is via Twitter, is where I'm X now, where I'm the most active, sharing things there. I don't have that many social networks apart from that. Well, I have LinkedIn also. If you contact me, I have the message open, so I will answer. I tend to go to a lot of conferences as a speaker or as attendee, and I'm really happy to contact people there and meet new people. But if you drop me a message via Twitter, I'm more than happy to, if you have a question or if you have a comment or if you have an idea what's going on with my Series A and you want to help, please drop me a message and I will be more than happy to contact you. We'll put the links there, but yeah, it's
exactly.
Towards Pro is the Twitter handle, and LinkedIn is just my Andres Torres, the name you will find me.
Perfect. For sure. We will put all the links so the people can see you over there. So Andres Torres, Chief Technical Officer at Kalyp Technologies. Thank you very much for being here today. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, Marcos. And keep going. The newsletter and a fan since you started. And also now I like these episodes when you talk to different people. So keep it going.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.